From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Hey, good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, November 13th. This is the second installment of the season. This goes every single Sunday morning during the winter season until the last threat of snowfall, usually sometime in March or early April. We have the cold air that has settled in behind a trough that moved through last night and this morning, and we are expecting this cold air to last for a while at varying intensities. We're going to have some times where it's just slightly below and then well below during this stretch. And I think this initial push that we're starting off with for the first couple days of it is not going to be the real core of the cold that's going to come in actually a little bit later. I'll show you that here in a second. Here is the long-range table from Friday, and this is fundamentally hasn't changed since we did this on Friday. So we have the below-average temperatures here, generally between today and the 22nd, and then just slightly below average for a couple days before ending the month near average, and maybe even near to slightly above average for the first couple of days or so of December. Near to slightly, but it's going to be very close to average. There's not going to be much of a difference, because you have to remember average highs and lows are coming down about 3 degrees per week, so you might not even see much of a difference in temperatures in terms of realized high temperatures at this point once you get to this period here for the last couple of days of November and the first few days of December. But then we transition to near to slightly below and then slightly below average here in the second and third weeks of December, and this takes us right up through Christmas. So you can see slightly below average temperatures we're expecting at that time. So could this be a year we have a snow on the ground on Christmas, or maybe even a Christmas snowfall? We don't know, but there is certainly going to be the temperatures are going to looks like they're going to cooperate. We might have our first bout of snow for some areas on Tuesday night. I'll get to that in a second as well. And we are expecting this month, because we started off so warm for the first 12 days overall, I think we're going to end up near to slightly above average, even with this prolonged cold stretch that we're expecting. I think it's going to balance out just enough where we're that far above average to start the month that it's not going to balance out exactly even, and it's going to favor the slightly above average side when you average the entire 30-day period as a whole. But we do have December slightly below average with slightly above average snowfall, okay? Here's what average snowfall is in November. Again, it's not much in the month of November for most of our areas. The interior areas are where would be favored for anything to accumulate. But, of course, December picks up quite a bit, as you can see here. And that's even at all locations. You get at least some snowfall in December. Typically, again, this is a 30-year average, not every year. And actually, if you look at just the past decade here, there hasn't been too much early snow. There's been a couple cases of that. Where we had had a surprise snowstorm in late November already. We had, I think we had during COVID. I know we had Jim Cantori in Bethlehem here. I know we had a pretty good whopper of a storm in December. I think it was around December 10th or thereabout. But that was, if you take a look at most other years, it has been waiting. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting for winter to start. We're getting the comments say, when's winter going to start? We keep kicking the can down the road. I don't think you have to do that this year. I think we're going to start late autumn, and it's going to continue on into early winter. So far, we have nothing. Zeros across the board, and this is where you're supposed to be normal. This is for anything from October to this point, what normal is. Northern areas get a little bit of stuff, so I don't want to say you're slightly behind, but you're going to have, this isn't really much to begin with, but nowhere has accumulating snow, but that could change in some of those interior areas as we get to Tuesday night. Here are the temperatures, of course, getting colder for the next couple of days here as that first round of the trough comes in. System Wednesday, and then this one coming in behind it is going to be even stronger, we think, with temperatures instead of either side of 45. You're talking about temperatures like right around the 40-degree mark for a couple days. So it's going to be pretty chilly. And then we have a moderation to slightly below average. And then here at the end of the run, right around the 28th, you get to near average again. So that's what our thinking was. So there's nothing. This is the latest European ensemble run, and it supports what we did on Friday as far as a long-range table. So there's no changes there. Here is that system on Tuesday night. Now this is a timing issue with this, okay? It's going to move. You see these blues on here. The rain would be the greens down here. So there is, I think, if you get north of I-78 up into the higher elevations, especially near I-80, from out here by State College and Lycoming County and all the way over through Northeast PA, North Central PA, you get into at least starting off as some snow, and there could be, especially in areas of elevation, some minor accumulations of snow before that changes over to rain. Very late at night. Okay, elsewhere you're going to be looking at rain, but there could be at the onset of this. Now it's going to depend on timing if this is going to be accurate. Now, let me see if I can. It'll let me stop it. There we go. Okay, so if at the onset of this, you're going to see a little bit of a mix, maybe initially, right along I-78 here. So it could see some flakes like from Harrisburg over to parts of the Lehigh Valley and initially mixing in, but this is going to be dependent on temperatures at that time. I don't see any accumulations down to this area, but there's your cutoff, which is right along I-78. So you could see some rain snow mix there initially, a few flakes mixing in with the rain as it first comes in. But up here it should be to the north, especially in the elevation areas, you could have some light amounts of snow with that. But I wouldn't get too excited about this. This is just an onset deal, and this is your total accumulation of snow. And again, this is generally following areas of elevation. So if you look at the areas, oops, let me get rid of this. I don't need that anymore. If you look at the areas of elevation, this is pretty much where it's following, okay? All the elevation areas where you could have anything above that line, where you have generally a coating to an inch. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if somebody gets squeezed out 1.5 inches in there, maybe even 2. But that would change over to rain late on Wednesday night, and that would be it, okay? So not a lot of precipitation we're talking about here overall, and not a lot of snow, but it's, you're seeing flakes flying in November. That's not unheard of, especially for those areas that are getting it. So let's go longer term here and look at stuff down the road. Okay, so Madden Julian Oscillation is currently in the circle of death, which is right here. What does the circle of death mean? Just means as convection, the best forcing and convection is not having an effect on the overall pattern right now. So once it moves out of there and gets into one of these phases, these numbered phases, 1 through 8, they all mean different things at different times of the year in different types of background states. Okay, so that's a lot to understand, and this is going to be a very vague overview. I'm not giving you a physics lesson here, but I'm just trying to give you an idea that each of these different phases means something at different times of the year and for different amplitudes and everything. So there's a lot of different things that go into it. But basically, we're sitting here around right now in the circle of death, somewhere in here. It has maybe a brief stint in 5, but you're really going into phase 6 for a while, it looks like, and then heading into phase 7 to end the month. Okay, so that's a general idea of the progression. Here is the extended version of the GFS, which is the same thing. Goes all the way through phase 6, phase 7, and finishes that out here around December 12th in phase 7. So it's kind of like right in this area. Does it get to phase 8? It might not, but it really doesn't have to. Okay, it really doesn't have to. Well, I'll show you that here in a second. But this is all these different phases mean something. And if you're looking at this in terms of November, because when it's in phase 6, it'll still be November, right? Here's what phase 6 looks like. Okay, and this is what the ensemble guidance shows toward the end of the month. We had a little bit. Remember, I had the near average to end the month of November, and then to start December 1st through the 5th or thereabout, you're near to slightly above, and that's because you're right on the edge of this ridge that's going to center the country. So you're kind of like, you're not getting into the really warm temperatures, but you're getting into kind of an in-between, all right? Either side of average, right around there is what it's favored in. This is a negative ENSO, which is a La Nina, in phase 6 during the month of November. That's what that looks like. When you get to December and you're in phase 7, which is when we're expected to go back into, December phase 7 is colder than average and lower heights across the northeast U.S. at that point. So you can get some lake effect snow events. You can get some minor systems that are producing snow. I don't think you're really going to get into it here as far as accumulating snow for a good or bigger portion of the area, except for this like little BS stuff we're getting on Tuesday night for the interior. If you want to include more of the area into accumulating snow, I think realistically we're looking at December week 2 onward, the beginning of the second week of December onward for any snowfall accumulation. And that is because longer range guidance is suggesting this phase 7 look as well. So here's what we're looking at. This starts off on the GFS extended. The beginning of it shows initially the first week of December, which is that near to slightly above average, but then look what happens after that as this progresses forward. This stops at the 17th, but you can see building cold here at that point, and this is cold relative to average. You got to remember, this isn't December. This is not October, November. December, it's already getting a lot colder. What average temperatures are. Normals at that time are in the what we're going to be in this next week, which is in the middle 40s or something like that, low to mid 40s. So if you're going to be slightly below that, you can have highs in the 30s. You can easily have snow in that case, right? Here is the Euro Weeklies agrees with that, near to slightly below average, or near to slightly above average to begin this loop, and then look what happens. Weeks 2, weeks 3, you get colder than average. Okay, so they're in agreement that that is going to be taking place. So I think any realistic chances of snow that would be more inclusive of the region would be December week 2 onward, okay? Here is our background state. Again, this is the update from last week. La Nina, obviously, we're still in, and it's still a weak La Nina. Strongest in areas 1 and 2 near the Peruvian coast, but we still have this very big warm blob over the northern Pacific, which could play a role in the EPO down the road, which I explained last week. I'm not going to be redundant with that. I just wanted to give you an update on that. This is what it's looking like. Still very warm along the east coast and the southern part of off the southern coast of Greenland. So this could bode well for some storms down the road. Maybe we'll see. And comparatively speaking to last week, this is the second week we're doing the Weeklies video. So I'm using this as a change from last week. I'll do this every single week. We'll update this and change, just like I'll update this chart right here. I will update this every single week too. Okay, just so you can see where we're at year to date and where we should be. I will do the same thing with this. So this is going to show you the progression of La Nina. So we're pretty much hanging close to where we were last week. It's not really changed too much. 0.1 degrees Celsius change is not that really not that big of a difference. So it would pretty much hold steady from last week to this week. But we'll continue to follow this over the next couple of weeks because I think it starts to weaken once we get into December. La Nina does. And then once we get to January, we're going to start getting teetering on ENSO neutral at that point instead of a La Nina. I think we're going to be coming out of that at some point, maybe January. It might wait till February possibly, but I think you're going to start teetering to that. And you can see that here on this is actually issued this month. This is for November 2022. These are the probabilities of La Nina in blue. ENSO neutral will be in the gray here, right? And El Nino is in the red. Okay, so this is probabilities of seeing a La Nina conditions, and you can see it's going down. You can see it's going down, and neutral is gaining steam as we get to the February, March, April time period. ENSO neutral is actually favored at that point. Favored. Okay, so it takes on different meaning. You know, with the climate background state being different, if it's rising towards neutral like that. Okay, and especially when you get out here in spring, we expect certainly to be solidly a ENSO neutral at that point, right? But it's going to take on different meanings. So when you're trying to paintbrush this, like we just saw last week, this paintbrush La Nina will not apply in certain kind of states. If it's La Nina, that's fine. If it's a ENSO neutral, this is what winter does. Okay, this is what winter does, and you get an active southern jet stream, and you get cold over the northeast and north central Great Lakes areas. So a little bit different. This is not quite as pronounced over our area in a typical La Nina, but again, it's rising toward neutral and should do so sometime this winter. So these winter outlooks that are being put out there that are expecting something like this to take place, which is pretty much verbatim because they don't know. It's the third consecutive La Nina. They don't know. They don't know what's going to happen because it's going to be a transitional winter. It's going to go from one to the other, and there will be different effects maybe downstream. People are writing off the end of winter saying, well, it's going to be a front-loaded winter. A lot of people agree with me on that, and I've seen those outlooks. But they're also saying, well, it's going to be a torch the second half of winter. Well, what makes you think that? I'd like to know. And we're sitting here on November 13th and trying to project March. Let's worry about just the next 5 to 6 weeks, which is what we do, because it's really beyond that. The variability is insane, and trying to project that is nothing more than flipping a coin. I can guess, you can guess, anybody can guess. You don't need a meteorology degree to guess. Okay, anybody can guess, because that's all it is. All right, and I know they put a lot of hard work in it. Again, no disrespect. I think I ruffled some feathers last week with a few people, with that do long-range outlooks that extend seasonal, which I don't do. I do 5 to 6 weeks for a reason and stop there. They choose to do seasonal stuff well in advance, and I think I ruffled a few feathers last week. Well, we put a lot of research into this. No doubt you do. I'm just telling you that once you get past 6 weeks, you can flip a coin and guess. Okay, that's pretty much it. And even once you get to the 5-6 week period, it gets a little hairy and sketchy sometimes, but I feel a lot more confident doing that than doing something, say, in March when we're sitting here in November. That's a little absurd to me. So this is a third-year La Nina, and each of the last 2 years looked like this, okay? This is the total. I did not show this graphic like last year. This is now that we're entering the third La Nina right now. It's to start winter. The last 2 years of snowfall versus average at our major climate stations. This is what normal is at each location here. And anything in green is going to be above average. So 2 years ago, in 2019, 2020, actually that's going to be 3 years, right? Yeah, because it's the third year, whatever. In 2019, 2020, we had a pretty good winter for most areas, especially in the interior and far interior, where you had some seriously high amounts. Hey, remember that's the year we had the one big snowstorm. I know in Allentown we had, I want to say it was 27.1 or 20, we had a storm that produced 27 point some odd inches, right? And that was in February. Or was it like, okay, well, whatever. So we had a big storm mixed in there, right? So we had a pretty good winter overall here for the first year of the La Nina. The second year La Nina, which was last year, this was below average. This is what we had at each location. And then the southeastern areas near the coastal regions did very well. This is Atlantic City that had 33.3 inches of snow, well above normal by over a foot, right? And quite a flip there. They're the only location that was below 2 years ago. They were the only one above last year. All the other stations indicated by the red here were below average snowfall. So this is year 3. What does it bring? Well, here's the year 3s that we looked at in the past, and I showed this in the last video too, but just want to recap here. You had 73, 74, 74, 75, and 75, 76. This is your third year right here. This is one of them. And this is going throughout history. This is all we have. We only have 2 winters to look at for that. The other one is going to be 98, 99, 99, 2000, and 2000, 2001. Here's your other third year La Nina, okay? So in history, we don't have that much of a data set. We have these 2 years right here, okay? 1975, 1976, and 2000, 2001. Now, with that being said, here is, and I did show this last week as well, but I want to expand upon this a little bit. This is the early season snowfall by location in a third consecutive La Nina winter, which we are in this year, right? So this is what 1975 did. The 75-76 season produced kind of like it did last year, kind of slightly below average at most locations, right? That's what it did. But then in 2000, 2001, it was at least slightly above average at most locations, if not above. Okay, so we had a lot more snowfall. And I don't have Wilkes-Barre in here because there was no observer that year, and so I don't have the data from there. And same thing out in the Harrisburg area in the 1975-1976 season. No observer, no data, right? No official data. Anyway, I'm sure somebody recorded something somewhere, but it's not published. Okay, so we don't have any information for Wilkes-Barre, but the thought here, just by triangulating around these other regions like Allentown at 47, I would imagine, Wilkes-Barre did better than that. Okay, so it's an above average winter that we were dealing with in 2000, 2001. Which one is looking like it's closer? If you look at temperature anomalies, projected temperature anomalies from right now going forward through December, the temperature anomalies relative to average are favoring this area, this closer, more so compared to this year, or what's projected this year, than this one, okay? So because of that, we're favoring something that's going to be a little bit, if I had to project at least, and again, going beyond December is going to be tough because I don't do beyond 5 to 6 weeks, but it's starting to lean towards something that would produce a little bit more early on. Again, I'm only focusing on 5 to 6 weeks. So if you just look at the 5 to 6 weeks, that's how I broke this down. November and December, even though you didn't have much in November in each of these years, you can see that some of the far interior had a little bit, and we might have a little bit of snow on Tuesday night in the far interior for those areas, so this could be very comparable. And then 1975 had some snow, even though it didn't have a lot, had some snow in December at every single location, a major climate station within our region. And that was in 1975, in a year which we didn't do overall that great. In 2000, December 2000, we had a lot more, okay? And you see that this is all above average for each one of these locations. So because of that, because we're starting to lean in this direction here with the where the ONI index is and how it's going to be transitioning to neutral like we had in 2000, 2001, I think this is a pretty good analog. More so than this, okay? So I think it's going to, we have no idea which one is going to follow. So I'm going to get that straight. But if I had to lean in a direction, it would be toward this one, not just because it's showing more snow, but just because the temperature patterns that occurred in November 2000 and December 2000 are lining up very similarly to what our projections are this year versus November, and December 1975. Okay, it's looking like it's going to be kind of the same. All right, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Also, storm signals. This is the latest Euro Weeklies, and I use Lehigh Valley International Airport here as an example, just to give you an idea that once we get out here, this is the weeks 2 and 3 period of December. Look at all that snow it has forecast on these. These are all individual ensemble members. There's a total of 50 of them, right? And most of them have at least some snow, if not decent amounts of snow, during the months of, or during the second and third week of December. Before that, you just get a lot of maybe some BS in here. Maybe something like we're having Tuesday night, that, thread the needle type stuff. Comes at night, and you get some onset snow, going to rain, whatever it may be. But most of the ensemble guidance is suggesting that once we get out here, that we start getting these, this graph starts going up, okay? And we start increasing those potentials for snow once we get it out of that period. So I really like that December week 2 onward period. And that's leading right into Christmas. Could we get a white Christmas this year? It's possible, or at least have snow on the ground for Christmas. Again, it's possible. We haven't had that for most of you. Look over the past decade. Most years have been nothing on Christmas Eve. Certainly not snowing on Christmas Eve, but nothing on the ground either. Okay, in some places you did, but not most of that time. It was not. So the big takeaway from this, we just had on November 1st, we had the My Pocket Meteorologist subscriptions from last year renew, okay? So this is the year, if you had the text alerts last year, they automatically renewed. If you did not have them last year, or you want to renew your premium form subscriptions, now's the time to do it, because we're going to have, start talking wintry stuff here going forward here. Now we're getting into the core, we're starting thinking about, it's a little bit more legitimate of a conversation to have about snow potential, rather than sitting here 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, and you're trying to get something to line up and the stars to align, all that stuff. You don't have the stars have the stars align as much once you get into December. Right now, you still do, but it's getting awfully close to that period where we're going to be needing to make snow maps, which we're still going to do for the public. That's still free and publicly available. But if you want the advanced information with more detail for your area, the My Pocket Meteorologist subscriptions are available. And that is our winter weather alerts page. So it's EPAWaweather.com/winter-weather-alerts. And that will get you options, the winter options for the premium form, and those text alerts for the 2022-2023 winter season. So just to summarize, much of the remainder of November is slightly below to below average at times through around the 27th. Then I think you have that moderation for a little bit. For about a week or so, like maybe near average to end the month, and then near to slightly above even for the first couple days of December before we go back into the slightly below average temperatures. And of course, it's relative to time of year, right? So it's already cold to begin with, and you're getting the temperatures slightly below average on top of that. So it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out, right? Expecting snow season to begin in late autumn this year instead of waiting until January, and that could, I think, weeks 2 and 3 of December are your key for that. Minor thread the needle type of stuff. Thread the needle type snow in far interior and northern areas through the first week of December, beginning already this Tuesday night for those areas, and more likely and more inclusive for more of the area December week 2 onward, which would be more of an area-wide thing. So I think we don't have much time. We're not going to be sitting here forever waiting for this for the snow to occur. That's the bottom line. We'll continue to update this every single week and every single Sunday morning. I want to keep it relatively shorter this week. The first week was longer because of, I had to set it up and it took long to publish it. But I want to have everything ready to go for you around this time every single Sunday. So join us again next week, and I'll continue to have updates going forward of what to expect of the long range pattern in winter. Take care.